What's up, guys? This is Sean.
This is Zach.
And we're from the Yelling from the Stands podcast. And today, we're here to talk to you about Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone and computer.
One cool thing Anchor can do for you is it will distribute your podcast across all platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts.
So in a nutshell, it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Ladies and gentlemen, broadcasting from Southern California, this is Yelling from the Stands.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Yelling from the Stands. This is your host, Sean. This week I'm riding solo. Zach's taking a little vacay, getting some much-needed time off. So welcome in episode number 22. We got a lot to talk about this week. Mostly going to talk about we got the new NFL season that started. I know everybody's excited. I'm pretty pumped up. We watched the Chiefs-Texans last night. Pretty killer game. Kind of got away from them towards the end, so a little bit slow towards the end, but we learned a lot about the fantasy implications of some of the things we've been talking about. So we'll make sure we get into that. We're going to start off with a little news update. Let's jump into the NHL playoffs. I know we've been touching base with that, kind of keeping up with it. Right now, where we stand, we are in the final four teams of the Stanley Cup playoffs with the Vegas Golden Knights taking on the Dallas Stars. And the series is tied. We're not tied. No, it's 2-1. Dallas leads the series right now. And let me see if there was any. No, there wasn't. So, yeah, they are. Yeah, okay. So the Dallas Stars won the last game 3-2. And they are up with an OT as well. I think you got to watch that. We've been stuck with fantasy football world. So we've been kind of missing out on the NBA and the NHL. So we got the Golden Knights series with Dallas 2-1 right now to Dallas, and then we've got the Islanders and the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Lightning lead 2-0 in that series. Winner of that's going to go for the Stanley Cup, and I can tell you with some friends I've had in Vegas recently, man, the Golden Knights, they're going hardcore for them guys out there, so they got a really good fan base. Hoping that we'll be there in a few weeks. See some remnants of that life. But no, Stanley Cup still kicking. Getting close to crowning a champion with this one. And that's where we stand with that. Let's jump to the NBA playoffs. NBA playoffs, where we're sitting right now is we've got one team that has clinched their spot to the conference finals. That's the Miami Heat. The Heat shocked the world this week, defeating the Milwaukee Bucks. 4-1 in the series. He was the 5 seed taking on the Bucks. The Bucks were the first overall seed in the East. It was pretty crazy. They really put it to them. The Heat showed up, shut them down, and now there's a lot of trade rumors floating around with Giannis and all this stuff. Even reaching the Oklahoma City Thunder camp. That's home for me. Talking about maybe possibly reaching out and getting Chris Paul, bringing in a new point guard to kind of help run the offense and give them a better shot. Of course, I'd love to see Giannis come play for OKC personally, but we know that's probably not going to happen. So, but we've got the Heat who's clinched, and then we've got the Celtics and the Raptors in the semifinals. Still, it's tied up 3-3. It's been a hell of a series. It really has. Hopefully you get a chance to watch Game 7 there. That's going to be fantastic. Over in the West, and that's who it's coming down to. It's probably going to be Miami and one of either Toronto or Boston. And then jumping to the West, we've got the Lakers and the Rockets. Lakers, I think, won Game 4 last night, if I remember correctly. It was 3-1 now. The series is Lakers are leading. Rockets are the 4 seed in that. Obviously, Thunder gave them a run. And their first series of the Western Conference playoffs. And we've got the Nuggets and the Clippers actually playing right now. So the Clippers have a chance to today finish that up, put that series to bed, and move forward. And what it looks like is we're heading for an LA showdown with the Clippers and the Lakers heading to the conference finals. Not surprising to anybody. We all called this. We all kind of expected this, so it's shaped up nicely. It's been some really good games in this NBA playoffs. Got to give them props. They've handled the COVID well. They've kept everybody in the bubble, and they've done a hell of a job with that. Speaking of the bubble, Houston Rockets' Daniel House Jr. booted from the bubble for violating safety protocols. Let's see. Rockets forward Daniel House has left the NBA campus in Orlando, Florida, and will not play again this season following a violation of the league's health and safety protocols, they announced. An investigation found the House had an unauthorized guest in his hotel room for multiple hours on Tuesday. Mr. House is leaving the NBA campus and will not participate with the Rockets team in additional games this season. So he's done for the season. Damn. And that's the league coming out. That's not even the Rockets. Sources previously told ESPN that House had denied committing any violation. No other players or staff had contact with the guest or were found to be involved in the incident. House is basically the Rockets' sixth man, had averaged 11.4 points a game, 5.8 rebounds, in 9 playoff games in the bubble. He was a late scratch for Game 3 and did not play Thursday either. Houston coach Mike D'Antoni had referred to House, 27, as one of the league's most underrated two-way players. Rockets have lost the past 3 games, trail the best of 7 series 3-1. Game 5 is Saturday, so could possibly see the last game of that series this Saturday. Make sure you check that out. So that's the first one of that. That's really the first kind of screw up we've heard from. And they just straight up kicked him out. So I think we've seen a lot of really good things happen with the NBA bubble. They've kind of set the bar. It was difficult hearing them set it up and kind of talk about it. Didn't sound like something that was going to be very fun to deal with, but they got it done. And between the NBA and even the NHL, they've done a really, really good job of keeping these players in check. Keeping a safe environment and just keeping the show going. I mean, the fans have really, really benefited from these organizations taking it seriously, so we appreciate you guys. We can wrap up these things. A little bit more NBA news. So this one touches close to home the other day. Coach Billy Donovan and the Thunder mutually part ways after 5 series. Let's get a little info on that.
With the Thunder exceeding expectations this season, it may come as a surprise that head coach Billy Donovan won't be returning next season. But that decision has a lot less to do with the present and much more to do with the future of the organization. You know, Sam Presti sat down with Donovan to have a meeting to discuss the future of the head coach. Presti brought a cooler of beer with him because he had a pretty good idea of where things may be going during that meeting. And they spent much of the time reminiscing of the last 5 years, starting with Donovan coaching Kevin Durant in his final season all the way up to their Game 7 elimination against the Rockets. But for Donovan, there was a lack of clarity about the track of the organization. What's Chris Paul's future? What's Steven Adams' future? And that sort of lack of understanding leads into Donovan looking for new opportunities as the Thunder likely embark on a rebuild in the near future. For Donovan, there's going to be options. Indianapolis has a head coaching vacancy, Philadelphia, Chicago, New Orleans. For the Thunder, Sam Presti isn't willing to think that far ahead yet. He's still thinking about Billy Donovan's last 5 years, and he'll get to the next head coach when that time comes.
And that's it, guys. He's done. A lot of people were calling for Mr. Donovan's head late last year after the playoff whiff when we had Paul George. And they decided to give him another run. I like Billy Donovan. Let's get that straight. Good coach. Really was a good coach. Let's see. His overall record was really good. 243, 157. That's 608 average. So the guy got it done. I think the with Oklahoma City, especially when we started out a really young team. We had some really good talent. But from the get-go, we know we've got a great fan base down there. They always show up for the team. And that brings some high expectations. Because that fan base isn't stagnant, a lot of these smaller market teams, when the team gets a little rough or they're rebuilding, you'll see the attendance dip. The expectations start to fall a little bit. And you see these clubs like, the Kings and the Pacers and things like that. They're fighting to kind of stay relevant because this is not in today's NBA where people are hopping ship and moving to Los Angeles and New York and going to these places where they want to live and team up with these athletes to create these mega teams. Small markets are the ones that are being hurt by this. So Oklahoma City's kind of been the standout in that sense, that we haven't had a great club. I won't say that, but we have had the expectations that we're going to compete and we're going to be good. And even when you go back as far as Scott Brooks was a really good coach. He did really good things there, got us really close, took us to the playoffs, the finals, hell. And we just eventually said, look, it's not getting done. We've got to get over that hump. A lot of people expected this with Donovan because he was hitting kind of the same wall. We kept running into it where obviously they overachieved last year. You can't deny the fact that a team that had a 0.02% chance projected to make the Western Conference playoffs ended up making the playoffs and almost defeated the Rockets, the 4 seed. Took them down to a Game 7. So it was a major overachievement last season was. So it's tough to watch a coach like this, and this guy's going to have a job, like he said. He's probably won't go along with that one. There's a few organizations looking for a good, solid coach like this, and they'll have him. Question is where do we look next? We're going to start digging into some options that they're going to be looking into, but I wouldn't be surprised here if they go big. The last 2 hires have been safe bets, and that's kind of what we're trying to get away from. We've got a really good nucleus. We've got more first round picks coming up the next few seasons than you can shake a stick at. The Thunder's expectations right now are very high. They're going to try to bring in somebody that's going to reshape this franchise, mold this group of young kids, bring them up, and hopefully put them into prominence so we can really get some hardware. Because God knows we were close. We had some of the most talented teams in the last 10 years with Kevin Durant. We had Russell Westbrook, James Harden at one point. I mean, these were all in one freaking team, and we couldn't get it done. So look for the Thunder. They're going to go. I wouldn't say a sexy pick as far as name wise, but I feel like it's going to have to be a little bit less safe and a little bit more volatile because they're going to want to push the limit of what we've been able to do to this point so that we can kind of get over that hump. So Billy Donovan, appreciate what you've done, brother. Good luck to you. Just wasn't a great fit. All right, let's get on to some football. College football, that is. We'll start with Memphis. So this just came out, I want to say just 2 hours ago. Give you a quick little update too with where'd it go? Maybe not. Memphis pauses football activities and game versus Houston in question over COVID-19 outbreak. Apparently, at least 20 people have tested positive, while at least another 20 are in quarantine. Memphis played one of its first games of the 2020 college football season in Week 1, the 37-24 win over Arkansas State. The Tigers' next game against Houston on September 18 appears to be in jeopardy, however, following an outbreak of COVID-19 within the program. The university announced on Friday that it had paused practices and another group of activities while it dealt with the outbreak. An announcement about the Week 3 game against Houston will be made next week, according to the release. So, we're already starting to see it, guys. I've been I want to say a truther of just, I don't think college football is going to make it. I don't think you're going to see a full season. I don't think the Big Ten's going to have anything coming back. I don't think it's not going to feel like college football, first off, because you're already missing 2 major conferences. And then whatever championship they figure out is always going to have an asterisk beside it. But the problem here is with college, these are student athletes. These aren't employees. These aren't kids you can go up to and say, this is what's expected of you. You better follow these rules. These kids in college want to have fun. Like, this is a one-time opportunity for them, 2, 3, 4 seasons to play. They're not going to come out here and, just dink and dunk. And like the pro players, when you watch, especially with like Hard Knocks, these are taking some great strides to stay safe. College is a little bit different. These guys leave practice and they just go all over. The pros, a lot of them they know where they live. They go straight home, straight back. They're tracked. They're kept under watch. They're kept under lock and key, essentially. College is a little bit different. You're not going to see the consistency. Frankly, some of these athletes are going to school, especially some of these smaller schools, just to get a degree. They don't care. They don't plan on playing football. So some of these guys aren't in the right mindset to really have that kind of responsibility on them, especially with the key aspect of this is they're not getting paid. You're not paying these guys to do anything. You're giving them a free education, and you're saying, hey, be careful, we can't have this. You're looking at 40 possible people from one team after one game that could have COVID right now. That shuts down a few weeks of these guys. If these other 20 come back and you have 40 kids from a team, it's insane. This has been my worry the whole time. I mean, there's been a handful of games that's been postponed. The first one I was going to talk about was Louisiana Tech and Baylor. They postponed due to COVID. It was scheduled for September 12th. Got postponed to a COVID-19 outbreak. Schools are now considering other dates to potentially reschedule the game. It happened with Oklahoma State as well. They pushed theirs back a week, and I'm sure there's some I didn't even see. If these three came out that quick, guys, this is going to be an issue all season, and it's going to continue to compound as we try to navigate these crazy waters because, first off, your big officials and stuff, yeah, they're looking out for safety. They're looking out for the kids, the well-being of these kids. But at the same time, they're also trying to figure out how to do a championship and how to, get these contracts, get TV time, make money for what they're doing. They've got to get reimbursed, otherwise, it means nothing. So, very tricky landscape right now with the amount of players you're bringing to campus. These kids are going to class, sharing class with other students that we don't know where they've been. Just the contact that they're having on a college campus. And I think there is a lot of them that are doing the virtual classes just to kind of alleviate that unknown of where they've been, which is smart. But like I said, they're college kids. First off, you've got a majority of these kids on this team that don't plan to play professional football. Yeah, it's a dream, but realistically, it's not going to happen. So they're not going to prioritize the same way a professional football player who's making, even a practice squad who's making $120,000 a year, they're not going to prioritize the same way. It's not the mindset. It's not, it's just not going to be that way. So I think this is the start of it. You might get a couple weeks of college football before this storm really hits, but this is going to get worse, guys, before it gets better. And when it comes to college football, and don't be surprised a month from now if they're shutting it all down and we're all sitting home like the Big Ten and the Pac-12. With a lot more extra time on Saturdays. So far, not so good. But wish them the best. Let's take a look here and see if I can get an update on this basketball game real quick. Where's my score? Okay, so it's halftime with the Nuggets and the Clippers. So the Clippers win this game and the series is done. They're going to the Western Conference Finals. Ooh. And it seems to be the Clippers are up 56-44 at halftime. Already got a 12-point lead. Yeah, it's not good. So Nuggets are going to need some miracle work to get themselves back in it. I think everybody's kind of expecting the Clippers to walk away and lock that up today. So, all right, let's talk about it, guys. It started last night. Everybody knew it. Get home from work. The first Thursday football game of the season. The NFL season is underway. I feel a lot better about the NFL. Like I said a moment ago, when you pay these players, they're professionals. They work for you. They have kind of a reason to follow what's going on because everybody's getting paid very well, first off. Second off, if they're not playing, they're out for a minimum of 3 weeks with this COVID stuff, and it could potentially derail a career if, some of these long-term effects we're learning from COVID. But the professional players have a better, I want to say, want to stay healthy and to kind of follow the rules because, like I said, it's a job to them. Something's expected of them from their employer. It's not just simply, hey, you're getting a free education, and I'm expecting you to do all these things to remain safe. And there is no classes to go to. There's no forced interaction anywhere else on a college campus or anything like that. So they're already avoiding a big part of it. And I think you're going to see a lot better results. And we saw one of the, so in NFL, there's two stadiums that are allowing fans as of right now, and that's Kansas City Chiefs and the Miami Dolphins. And they're both right around, I think, 20% capacity. So we saw it last night with the Chiefs, which I've got to give a thumbs up and a thumbs down to the fans at the Arrowhead Stadium. Thumbs up for the noise. the commentators noticed it right away. They were like, man, this doesn't sound like it was like 17,000 people there total because, just due to the social distancing rules they had in place. But it did not sound like that whatsoever. They were super loud. They made the game feel like old school, like last year. I guess not really old school, but like it used to be. They sounded great, man. The crowd noise was there. I'm sure it was pumped up a little bit with microphones, but it did not sound like a crowd of 17,000 people. So that was pretty cool to see, get into the game. But also on the downside of the fans, like, I thought the Texans and the Chiefs, they did a unity thing where they kind of locked arms, both teams in the middle of the field. Didn't kneel for the anthem. Nothing of that stuff was going on. And the crowd booed. What the hell? So I don't know if they thought they were doing some Black Lives Matter protest or something. I mean, you're in the Midwest. I don't know what the hell the Chiefs fans were thinking by booing. So if somebody's got some behind the scenes or knows something I don't, hit me up on Instagram. But shit, man, pretty low class. Like, that was pretty stupid. So thanks for being loud. But I mean, it seems so ignorant. I don't understand that. Like, literally just promoting unity between players and different mindsets, and especially in an election year, all this bullshit we're going through, and we're gonna boo them. What the fuck? So that was interesting. But let's get into. Let me pull up some stats here. We're gonna do a quick breakdown of this Texans-Chiefs game. So I gotta close my browser tab on accident, so I had this pulled up. Let's see. Box score. All right, so the Houston Texans, Kansas City Chiefs start off the NFL season Thursday night. Chiefs were pretty much in control, pretty much from the second quarter on. Game ended 34-20. It wasn't nearly as close as that. We had some garbage time towards the end. Chiefs start out 1-0. Obviously, the Texans 0-1. It was a decent game. I think overall, the big takeaways are the Chiefs didn't lose a step, but they gained a step. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the real deal. It's hard to really understand how a team as good as the Chiefs can have a late pick like that and still snag the best running back in the draft. It's happened before. It happens with the Patriots. They did it with Sony Michel. Of course, that didn't turn out great, but these guys get these high draft picks because running backs aren't valued very high in the NFL. They're looked at as a dime a dozen, the workhorse. So these guys typically fall because they just don't get drafted that high. You have somebody like Zeke that's kind of that once in every few years comes along. It's a different story. But with these guys, they got Clyde Edwards-Helaire at the end of the first round, and he fucking looked great. 25 carries, 138 yards, averaging 5.5 yards a carry, 1 touchdown with a 27-yard long rush. It was insane. It was good. The guy is a lot smaller. When you see him in the pro game, like watching his LSU highlights and stuff, you see him a little bit more like a bowling ball. When you see him in the NFL, definitely the size. He's smaller. Does remind you a little bit kind of like Work Done style. Real low to the ground, real quick. Some of his moves kind of reminiscent of Maurice Jones-Drew. Very bouncy. Guy that kind of gets in traffic and somehow is able to bounce his way out. So he's not quite like a bowling ball where he's just going to run over you, but man, he's quick and he's elusive and he can shed tackles. I got some stats coming up we'll come at you next week with. But this guy was breaking tackles left and right. I read some on Twitter this morning that was talking about him getting away. So it was impressive. So a lot of people were drafting Clyde Edwards-Helaire in fantasy. He was going pretty much between 5th and 10th overall. In our league, he fell into the second round. Him and Devontae Adams fell into the second round in our main FFL league. So I think Zach's actually the one that got him. And I think he got him. I think he was the 7th overall pick. So he got him second round, 7th pick, which is an insane value. And what he puts up last night, Clyde Edwards-Helaire ends up putting up 16. No, that was his projected 20.80 fantasy points in my league. My league's PPR. It's got a few bonuses for like long touchdown plays and 40-yard passes, things like that. So if you see QBs that are a little bit amplified, that's due to some bonuses I have in my league. But besides that, it's basic PPR. Edwards-Helaire, a breath of fresh air. No kidding. He was great to see. Kansas City's had a really rough time with running backs the last few seasons, either the injury game. Damian Williams was pretty good last year. He opted out this year, so we didn't have him at all. Darrell Williams was the backup. Didn't do bad himself. I think he rushed 7 times. Let me take a look. Where's he at? Darrell Williams. So he had 7 attempts for 23 yards. I think he dropped his only catch he had coming his way. So not horrible, but not good. Not great. Didn't separate himself. If Damian Williams was here, Jesus. They insanely talented. Like, it would be so scary to watch these guys play. But rookie really came on, proved his worth, looks good. If you got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you're happy right now because the dude put it on. Both QBs had pretty good QB play. Obviously, Watson struggled a little bit more. I think the number one thing we noticed overall is that, Bill, you fucked up, bro. You fucked up, Bill. You got a generational talent, Deshaun Watson, a winner, a guy that'll put the team on his back, and all you're doing is you're taking weapons away from him. He's Aaron Rodgers 2.0. They're just fucking putting nobody around him. He's got 2 very average tight ends that, they didn't get a lot of targets, but you're hearing their names more than you should. You got Will Fuller, who's battled injuries for the few years he's played. Good wide receiver out of Notre Dame. Legit. And then you pick up Brandon Cooks this year. So they tried to put a little bit of weapons around him after losing DeAndre Hopkins, or I should say giving away DeAndre Hopkins. But it was rough. So we're going to get into the winners and losers of our very first game. Obviously, we're not going to break down stuff like this all the time, but because this is our only sample size of NFL football happening, we're going to dive into it. All right, so winners after our first game will be the Chiefs' dynasty hopes. First off, when you've got a ball club that had the best offense in the NFL last year and the year before due to Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, you got Sammy Watkins, Demarcus Robinson, Tyreek Hill, we've had Damian Williams, you got Chris Jones on the defense, Tyrann Mathieu, you got a lot of players, and you got Andy Reid at your coach. It's just a perfect storm. They've been so good. You add Clyde Edwards-Helaire to this, a running back who can rush the ball 25 times a game, pick up 140 yards and score a touchdown or 2. He's got to do a little bit better job out of the backfield catching the ball. Wasn't super impressive in that aspect, but it was raining as well. The guy's little. It's his first ever game. Don't forget Kareem Hunt, his first game. Didn't fumble a football in college. His entire college career fumbled on his first play. And we know how he turned out, so... But you add that guy to the mix, you're completely revamping this offense. You're adding, when you've got a running game for a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, it gives him a sense of peace because now he doesn't have to show up every single play. He can step back and strategize and break down these defenses, knowing that if he needs to get a few yards, Clyde can step in and take that. So to take a little bit of that workload off the inching of the yards, moving the chains, really helps Patrick Mahomes, and it's only gonna progress his game and his vision that much more throughout the years. And we know he's locked up, so he's going to be in Kansas City for pretty much his entire career. But definitely dynasty when it comes to the Chiefs. I think the Patriots are done when it comes to that, and the Chiefs are the new Patriots right now because there's just too many weapons. Even if as the contracts expire, when you look ahead a few seasons and let's say you lose somebody like Kelce because the money's not there, or the game plan is just starting to kind of evolve and you lose a few pieces, Sammy Watkins here and there, maybe a defensive, it's not going to break it, guys. This team is legit. If you've got Patrick Mahomes, first off, you don't need a great defense. He can keep you in the game. He's from the Big 12. That's what they do. Defenses are second nature to the Big 12. We all know that. Take a look at almost any of the high-powered offenses. OU is probably the one standout, typically with a decent defense, but it's usually the catalyst in whether they win or lose these big games. So coming out of Texas Tech, he's used to winning games with his arm. not having a great defense. So I think if you lose a few pieces, he's there. I don't think you're going to see the Chiefs be there for a while. Next winner, Sammy Watkins. Let's talk about fucking Sammy Watkins. If you're a fantasy footballer fan, the Lizard King himself. So, Mr. Sammy Watkins, if I told you before this game, your leading targeted receiver is going to be Sammy Watkins, I laughed in your face. I laughed in your face, man. Sammy Watkins, I guess he wasn't, for the Chiefs, I should say, because technically Fuller got one more than him. But Sammy Watkins was targeted 9 times, had 7 receptions for 82 yards and a touchdown, and had a rush for 3 yards. If you watched the first half, you were like, what the hell is going on? Why is Sammy Watkins getting so many targets? It slowed down a little bit in the second half, but the guy was making plays. 7 for 9, a touchdown and 82 yards. That is low-end wide receiver 1 right there. That's not something anybody expected out of him. I thought Sammy Watkins was going to start to fade away this season. I thought this was going to be his year where he really just lost a step and his career started to kind of come to an end. He definitely hasn't lost a step, and he looked really good yesterday. I don't know if maybe just the game plan from Houston came in to shut Tyreek down. Could have been that. So when it comes to fantasy, one game can give you a lot of information, but do not hang your head on one game. This could have been game plan based. If I'm a Sammy Watkins owner, you got him more than likely in the 9th, 10th, 11th round in your draft. And if I'm you, trade that motherfucker right now. Go after somebody a little bit more consistent. I'd go after like Jarvis Landry. If you could go higher than that, double up, go for it. Go get rid of him. I don't think the consistency is going to be here with him. I think the reason you saw Demarcus Robinson get what he got, and he got 6 targets. He only caught 3 for 20. Dropped, I think, almost 2 touchdowns. I know he had 1 early on. The reason those guys were getting targeted a lot and Tyreek Hill was kind of left out in the cold is just the game plan. They wanted to shut him down. They wanted to put the ball in the rookie's hands and make him earn it. The sad part is it kind of backfired because the guy did it. The rookie did it. And Mahomes was able to find Kelsey, and he was able to use Sam a lot, and he just used all his weapons. But Sammy Watkins had a fantastic day. He's only 48% owned on Yahoo, which is crazy. That's going to spike here in a couple days. A lot of people use the Tuesday waiver wire system or Wednesday, whatever it is. Mine's rolling and in real time, so... And he's picked up in every league I'm in too. So impressive outing from Sammy Watkins. Rest of season outlook, in my opinion, I'm not buying it. It's a gameplay. It's kind of game flow dependent. If you weren't playing a team, because Houston's got a good defense, they knew they needed to take people away. Bill O'Brien's a part of that coaching tree with Bill Belichick, and they're known for taking away your best weapon. So, and when it comes to volatile teams, it's the Chiefs, and if they get ahead of you too quick, it's done. So I think the game plan would have been from the get-go was to shut Tyreek Hill down, take away that really deep ball that can lose them the game really quick, and that's what happened. And that's why you saw Watkins get 9 targets and Demarcus Robinson get 6. So don't go buy heavy on Sammy. I mean, if you believe in the guy, go for it. I could be wrong. None of us know. We're just taking guesses here. But watching Sammy Watkins play in the last 5-6 seasons, he's known for these really big games, and it's usually game plan dependent. So right now, his rating is the 52nd overall wide receiver. If I'm you and I'm in your shoes, let the weekend play out, and you start selling him on Monday hardcore. Because he put up 21 points, and frankly, he way overachieved. So he'll probably end up in the top 20 wide receivers for the week. So capitalize, guys. Another winner this week was Will Fuller owners. I can include myself in that. In the SFL, I own him. Very doubtful about his health. Never crazy about it. But I got Will Fuller in the 8th or 9th round. It was pretty good value. From the get-go, I kind of thought he would be the wide receiver 1. I don't like Brandon Cooks. I never have. I've owned him one time, and I think I ended up trading for just to get rid of him. I cannot stand fantasy players like Brandon Cooks. Horrible health. Had the concussion issues late in the season last year. Just he's not a big wide receiver. It's like what I don't understand in the NFL, and if you've listened before, you understand this. It's the speed receivers, and that's what Cooks is. He's a speedy, smaller receiver. Henry Ruggs, John Ross, all these guys are the same. They talk him up huge. They deliver so little. I've not seen. You've seen only a handful of these guys really work out. Tyreek is one of the few that can do this. Brandon Cooks, in my opinion, will be on waiver wires by week 12, I would imagine. He is going to either have an injury issue that takes him out of it, or he's just not going to be relevant. He doesn't look like a good wide receiver. He hasn't looked good in a few seasons. That's why he's been bouncing around teams. I was talking to a buddy that owns him last night, Troy. Troy owns him, and the guy I'm playing this week owns him as well in my FFL league. And they're shocked. They're like, what the hell's going on? Brandon Cooks ended up with 5 targets. I thought it was 4. I guess they switched it to 5 by the end of the night. He caught 2 passes for 20 yards. It was irrelevant. He put up 4 fantasy points. This is a guy that was drafted, and he fell a little bit, and the value kind of was there if you wanted to take a chance. But like I was telling friends of mine, I would not take Brandon Cooks before the 9th round because I don't think the upside was there. And of course, we can't bank on one game, but Brandon Cooks put up 4 points for you last year or this week, and likely ruins your week. Rest of season outlook on Brandon Cooks. You got to look at it like this: where'd you draft him? If you drafted him in the 5th, the 6th round, you got to bite the bullet, man. You're going to probably have to set the guy for a few weeks. Hope for the best. Hope that there's some better clicking, because that's the one other aspect you got to think of. These guys haven't had any preseason. There's been 0 time to really get some chemistry built up with these new players. Training camp is all about finding out who's going to make the team, who's ready, who's not. So a lot of their assumptions for Brandon Cooks were based off what he's done in the past. The chemistry is really still not there. So hold on to him. If I watch Brandon Cooks get dropped in the league right now, I'd probably scoop him up just because of what his potential could be. I'm not a fan of Brandon Cooks. I'd never draft him. I'd never trade for him. But he's in a position now where the only place to go is up, because he's not going to do this bad every week. But I have a feeling, I think he's done. I don't think he's going to do much. But on the chance that he does, the position he's in as the wide receiver 1-2 in Houston, and with a good QB, just gives him a lot of upside. So, looking at it as a fantasy owner, I don't want anything to do with him. But as a realistic person that, says, hey, this guy could really, he's in a position to do well if he's able to. So if you see Brandon Cooks get dropped, scoop him up. He's worth his stash for a few weeks to see how it plays out. If you're a Brandon Cooks owner, you can't trade him. You're not getting shit for him right now. Nobody's going to give you anything for a guy that just put up 4 points. So hold on. You need to wait for him to have a decent week to start trying to trade him. But now you got to start monitoring whether or not you can start this guy. Last fantasy winners for the week, Mr. David Johnson. This was crazy because I was not expecting him to play like this. We all know what David Johnson can do and how good the guy is as a running back. His 2016 season in Arizona was insane. Great running back, tall, runs upright, great pass catcher, and that's where the points in PPR come from. David Johnson last night put up 19 fantasy points, 11 rushes for 77 yards and a touchdown, which his big rush of, I think it was 20-yard rush for touchdown, was gorgeous. I thought he was done. He was in traffic, scooped right through it, cut a lane, touchdown. He looked good. He looked young. He looked fresh. He looked like he was healthy. He did not look healthy the last couple of years to me. 4 targets, 3 receptions, 32 yards. Guys, if you got David Johnson in the 4th round, the 5th round, you might have just struck fantasy gold this season. They do not have a lot of talent in Houston. Bill O'Brien really fucked them over with that trade. Got rid of him and brought him in. David Johnson's good, yeah. But still, even at David Johnson at his best, giving up DeAndre Hopkins, no. But this is where you're at. If you own David Johnson, my rest of season outlook for this guy, as of right now, is good. He looks healthy. He looks happy. He is a part of this offense. He doesn't look like... In Arizona last year, we couldn't tell what was going on with Kingsbury. why David wasn't given the opportunities. It just seemed like he was kind of outside of that circle of trust. So immediately they had to lean on him yesterday in Houston. So we know that he's in there. And the more Deshaun plays with him, he's going to kind of factor into the passing game a little bit more. I mean, they're going to have to. They really don't have that big threat downfield like they thought they had in Brandon Cooks. So pretty damn good. David Johnson, man. Look at him. 11 for 77. 11 rushes. Scored 77 yards. That's great. So if you got David Johnson, you are very happy right now. I know there has been a few people out there that are like, I'm just hoping for a good game so I could swap him. I mean, if you're trying to move David Johnson, I'd say hold on to him. Basically, the only thing you got to worry about with DJ at this point is his health. If he can stay healthy, he's got so much work in front of him. There's just not a lot of talent in Houston right now. They don't have a great offensive line. Deshaun Watson loves to throw. And frankly, his wide receivers are disappointing right now. So he's going to throw the ball. He's going to throw it to David. He's going to get it. So I would urge you to hold on to him. But if you do have to trade him, go for somebody that's going to get you the workload. I'm not trading for a Nick Chubb. I'm not trying to trade up for that Jonathan Taylor. No. You're going to trade for a clear-cut guy. If I'm trading David Johnson, I'm taking David Johnson, and then I'm going to package him with a top 30 wide receiver, someone towards the bottom of that, and move him for like a Kamara or something like that. And that's if you can even do that. If you can target somebody who had a high round draft pick, ended up with kind of a little bit spotty team, got some holes in it, give him a David Johnson in that, go for after one of the elite top 5 running backs. Not a bad idea there. Any other scenario I'm not touching. So be happy. Good win with David Johnson there, and a lot of people got him at a value. All right, Dynasty losers, Brandon Cooks owners. First one, straight off the board. Troy drafted him in the SFL. He's got him. We were talking last night. He's like, what the hell's going on with this guy? And we were just talking about research, man. Do your research. Check what this guy's done in the last few seasons. I haven't had Brandon Cooks on my team in 3 years. Now, I don't care what they say. I know him as a player. Like, I've watched him. I've watched him disappoint. Yeah, he's had some big games. He's not the kind of player I roster in fantasy ever. He is a guy that if somebody dropped him, yeah, I'd scoop him up. He's got a pretty high upside. I just don't think that's going to happen. So if you're a Brandon Cooks owner right now, like we said a few minutes ago, you're going to have to bite the bullet and just hold him. Unless you just want to drop him and move on, which I wouldn't recommend because you probably drafted him in the 7th round, 6th round, 8th round, somewhere right around there. Maybe even higher. And God, if you're in the 5th, you're fucked, bro. But you got to hold on to him. There's not much you can do about dropping him. You're going to have to hold on to him, wait for better days, and then make your move. But if you have Brandon Cooks, you need to be aiming to be a person who doesn't have Brandon Cooks. Because if you want to be successful this year, his inconsistency is going to help you be unsuccessful. Another dynasty loser this week, or fantasy loser, I'm sorry. Bill O'Brien, bro. What the hell are you doing there? This guy, not a bad coach. He's really done some good things for the Texans. Texans have been a good team on the fringe for like the last 3 seasons. They get Deshaun Watson, totally change their offense. And what do? You take his fucking weapons away. I know there was issues with DeAndre. I guess, I don't know, this was a report, but having his baby mamas at the practice facility, and Bill O'Brien got sick of it. Get the fuck over it. He's the talent. DeAndre Hopkins might be one of the best wide receivers I've ever watched play the game. I wasn't a believer until 2 seasons ago. This motherfucker is insane, guys. He's insane. And he's almost unguardable. You can have him double teamed and this motherfucker will bring down these passes, these fades and shit. I couldn't believe when they traded him for David Johnson. It looks like it kind of worked out with talent level getting back and getting some good work out of David, but they don't have a wide receiver right now. Bill, you screwed up in that aspect. You got to go get somebody. I don't see them trading for anybody. I was trying to play it through my head last night. In what world would they go after a Dez Bryant? Maybe that's on the market. There's nobody big out there that's going to turn this team around. If you could get a Dez Bryant and basically use him as bait to at least open up a little bit of room for Cooks or Fuller, or even some of these tight ends that flashed last night. Both of DeAndre's tight ends, Jordan Akins and Darren Fells, both got a couple targets. Akins got a touchdown. It's a pretty nice catch. But that's going to be the problem for Houston, is the fact that it's spread out so much and everybody gets a little bit. 2 tight ends got 2 targets. Will Fuller got 10. So if you're a Will Fuller owner like myself and not a Brandon Cooks owner, you're pretty happy. Fuller has been a guy floated around on our waiver wires last year, capable of being a big-time wide receiver 1. We saw some of those games last season. The dude's health is always in question. He runs a little bit sloppy routes. He looked sloppy last night. When I was watching the game, the first thing I'm noticing is that first pass they threw to Fuller, sloppy route, wasn't paying attention, should have caught it. Just wasn't there. The execution wasn't there. So I was concerned. But basically, once you got into the second quarter, you realized that Fuller is the guy. His targets were out beating Cooks right away. Cooks didn't have a shot in that game. And then towards the end, I didn't even see him on the field that much. So that's a big concern there. So Fuller is obviously the wide receiver 1 there. Cooks is going to be labeled as a wide receiver 3 to 4 at this point with the work he's getting. Tight ends are untouchable at this point. They're 2 boom and bust. And David Johnson. I mean, it's Fuller and Johnson on the offense when it comes to them. So Bill O'Brien, you got some work to do. He's the guy that's in charge of I believe, the organization there as well as the GM and the coach. And yeah, brother, that was a big fuck up. Last loser, not a big fantasy relevant guy, but Duke Johnson did get hurt yesterday in the game. Regardless, he got hurt worse by how well David Johnson played. David Johnson proved that he doesn't need a 1-2 guy, doesn't need a committee. I think DJ's the guy as long as he can stay healthy. So the fact that Duke did get hurt, Duke put up 1.4 points, rushed 5 times for 14 yards. Duke has not been, a solid running back for the team at all. Hasn't ever been. He's always been a pass catching back. David did better than he did yesterday. So if you drafted Duke Johnson, I just pray you got him late because he's probably going to get dropped here soon. Just not relevant, just not there. And somebody else is doing such a good job as David Johnson. You don't need a guy like Duke. If you're a Duke Johnson owner, if I'm you, I'd just cut him. Go pick up a Jalen Reagor or Brian Edwards, somebody that's got some upside on your waiver wire. Chase Claypool, some of these guys that might hit week 1 that aren't going to be on the waiver wire. So we know what Duke is. It's time to move on, Duke. All right, fantasy players, situations to watch this weekend. So I will tell you, as a fantasy football manager, as a guy who runs 2 leagues and has been for this is year 9, week 1 is the most important week of the season. This is almost as more important than your draft, I would argue. Reason being, everything to this point has been a projection. There is nothing on paper, especially this year, because there's no training or there's no preseason. There's no any kind of body of work out there except for last year, which, face it, it's a different season. It's a different team now. After week 1, when you get to see these guys, you get to see the reps they get. You get to see the workloads. You get to see what the tendencies the coaches are starting to use with these players. You get to see the young guys that we hear a lot of guff about. See how they actually perform, how they're treated in the game. It clears so much up. Your waiver wire activity should be the most prominent after week 1. If you're in a league that has to wait till Tuesday to put in the waiver wire bids, do your homework now. Get a list of players to watch, and you watch them as they go on, and then you get your bids in early, and have those players in mind too that you're ready to drop. That's another big part of this. Is I can tell you right now, you can bring up any fantasy team I've got, and I will tell you in order their drop list. So, if I have to drop somebody now to pick up maybe somebody's replacement that just got hurt and I want to grab the backup, he's going first. He's second, he would be third. You got to have that ready to go. These guys are expendable. If they're on your bench, they're not earning you any points. So remember that. So if there's somebody with a higher upside that you can get that could be a potential starter, you need to be ready to scoop up those points. I made a decision the other day and did my first drop, which was Nyheim Hines. I decided to drop Nyheim Hines because I kept hearing about Brian Edwards, who now has a little bit of a knee issue. But in Las Vegas, who are they throwing to? You got Darren Waller, who had 1,100 yards as a tight end last year. That's fantastic. But who else are they throwing to? Tyrell Williams was the other guy. Ended the season with 600 yards last season. And that's after he set out a total of like 5 games. So there's a lot of targets that are up in the air right now. Henry Ruggs is the typical Brandon Cook style receiver. You know how I feel about those. I don't have any faith in him. Yeah, he might come out. He might play a little bit on the outside and play the speedy and be that John Ross guy, jet sweep every once in a while kind of guy for them. I'm not buying it. Bryan Edwards is the guy. He was the guy at South Carolina where he played last year. If it wasn't for the injuries, he would have went in the first round. The guy is unreal. He is a great battleistic wide receiver. He likes to pull down the catch in traffic. He likes to fight for the ball. Really good too. So when you get these professional wide receivers come in, if they can't fight and muscle for the ball and play very physical, they're not going to have a lot of success. So when you look at these two players, my projection right now is Bryan Edwards is the guy if he can stay healthy. So if this knee injury is legit, we're going to be in trouble there. But you got to look for these upside guys. And like I was saying, I dropped Nyheim Hines, who was another one of my upside guys. I'm kind of banking on him to be the poor man's Austin Eckler this year with Phil Rivers and Indy. But it was just, I kept hearing about him. He seems like he's referred to as the wide receiver 1. The depth charts did come out, and he was listed as wide receiver 1 and 2. Him and Henry Ruggs. Preseason depth charts, don't take them seriously. A lot of times they're written by the PR people and not the actual coaches and stuff. So, but who else is there? All through practice, training camp notes, Bryan Edwards. So two wide receivers that have been on Zach and I's mind for a while now has been Bryan Edwards and Jalen Reagor. So Rager's the other guy. Reagor just got cleared to play today. By the way, we thought he was going to miss the first 3 weeks after his shoulder injury, I think it was, in practice. The dude got cleared. He's playing. He might be on snap count. Might just be out there to get some experience. But eventually Reagor is going to be the man in Philly, I believe. They are over Mr. Alshon. Been trying to trade him. I don't think that's going to happen. Probably going to eventually get cut with his own health issues. But that's one situation to watch this weekend. The other one, the big ones that I'm thinking of, are going to be the ones where we don't know who's in the backfield, who's getting the work. First one to jump into mind is the Rams. It's not going to be the most sexy pick, but face it, there's 3 people floating around right now that are Rams running backs that we don't know who's going to get the job. Malcolm Brown has been the guy listed as the starter there for this weekend. You got Cam Akers, the rookie, who feels like the guy that's going to come in and get the shot to take over. And then you got Darrell Henderson, second-year guy who just got deemed healthy to play just a few hours ago. He'll be playing. So you got 3 guys. And I've got Darrell Henderson on my bench. I drafted him probably in like the 11th round. Just a stash, because at that point when we were doing our drafts, he was the favorite to win the job. I don't think Malcolm Brown's going to... I think Malcolm gets the least work, to be honest. He might start, but you won't see him. You won't see him that much. I think it'll be all Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson. But we don't know. That's the thing. We're just taking guesses. We're projecting. We're going off eyeball tests. We're taking statistics and just trying to make an educated guess. You need to watch them this weekend and see how they use these backs. See who gets the most attempts. See who comes in on first down. See who comes in on third down. Goal line situations. That's what you got to kind of pay attention to. I'm in a league right now where I might have to start Darrell Henderson this weekend, and I'm fucking terrified. I got Miles Sanders and Christian McCaffrey, and I kept falling with higher end wide receivers, and I end up drafting Darrell Henderson as my only other running back. So if on the sheer chance that Miles Sanders does not play, I'm gonna start Darrell Henderson. Shit, pray for me. But you got to watch that Rams game. That's going to clear out a lot of stuff this weekend. The other one's the Browns. A lot of people are worried Kareem's going to come in and start stealing more attempts, not just actually passing downs from Nick Chubb. Keep an eye out on that, because that's going to tell you how valuable people are getting Kareem Hunt in typically, I'd say 4th, 5th, 6th round. Nick Chubb was going 2nd round all the time, probably the 7th overall, 8th overall running back. So if you got Kareem Hunt in the 6th round and he comes out and he gets 12 attempts, splits carries with Chubb, you just hit a home run. So that's what you got to watch for this weekend. This is what's going to show you the value. And even if it's not, it's not going to show you how it's going to go all season. Shit changes, we get it. But it's perceived value. With fantasy, it's all about perception. Perception is reality. If Kareem Hunt comes out and gets 12 carries and scores 25 fantasy points after a few catches, I'm selling Kareem Hunt with another wide receiver, and I'm going after Zeke, and I'm going after somebody big. Because first off, we don't know it'll last, but we know it just happened. So you got to take that perceived value and run with it. A lot of people get mad at me each year because I do a lot of trades where, and frankly, I'm giving away some of my secrets, but I used perceived value. I wait for a really good week from a certain player, and they might have a really good projection for the rest of the season. Once they had that good week, okay, I got that, check. Then I go find somebody that needs that wide receiver. So in this case, I would target somebody like the Brandon Cooks owner, who now has Brandon Cooks, who was probably in their flex. God forbid if he was in their wide receiver 2 spot. And say, look, I've got this guy. This just happened. Look how they play. Look at the rest of the season. Let's make a deal. That's basically how I approach the trades. And each year, I earn a lot of ground from the trades I make. And it's usually just based off perception. So you've gotta strike while the iron's hot. Timing's just as important as any other aspect when it comes to stats in fantasy football. So Cleveland running game, Rams running game. Other thing to monitor, Bucs offense. This is going to have a huge implications on a lot of stuff. First off, Mike Evans is doubtful to play, so we're not going to get a full glimpse of what the Bucs offense could be. Obviously, we think Godwin's going to be the head overall guy, but Mike Evans is going to be a wide receiver 1 version of a wide receiver 2. We also expect Leonard Fournette to get some snaps. Ronald Jones. I'm expecting Fournette to eventually take over. Ronald can't catch passes that well. He's had a lot of trouble in training camp. I think Fournette really is. I think he's talented, as much as Jaguars didn't think that and thought he needed the ball too much. But you have to watch the offense. This is your chance to see Brady really come to life. Let's see what he's got. No Bill Belichick behind him this time. It's pure Brady. We're going to see what he can do under Bruce Arians. We're going to see the snap counts. We're going to see the target share. That's what's important this weekend because there is a high expectations around this Bucs offense. We had Tom Brady rated high, but it wasn't so much because I thought he was going to just launch the ball and go crazy on offense, but he has so many more weapons to do what he's done in New England. It's going to be easier. So I think it's going to just create more offense. But this is going to be a situation to monitor. Alongside with the Eagles, if you drafted Miles Sanders in the first or second round like I did, he is questionable. Also, the rest of the Philadelphia offense is kind of up for grabs. We know Boston Scott's the second guy at running back, so if he doesn't play, Boston Scott's your man because he can fill in pretty well. Wide receiver wise, for the Eagles, Deshaun Jackson is going to be a huge impact player. We know Alshon's out. Probably won't, very likely might not play for the Eagles again. And then you got Jalen Reagor playing. And honestly, behind that, Zach Ertz is probably going to be your best guy. Ertz is, if you got him. But outside of that, there's a lot of questions, guys. We're going to have to really find out and see. So if Miles Sanders was going to soak up a lot of passing targets, that was the thought. And that's why his value skyrocketed and his ADP jumped. But if he's out, there's a lot of targets that's going to go somewhere else. Boston Scott can catch passes, but not quite on Miles Sanders' level. So I'm going to keep an eye on the Philadelphia Eagles this weekend. That's going to have a lot of fantasy implications and let us know who's going to be relevant there and for the rest of the season. Last one I'm going to monitor hardcore is the Chargers offense, not just because that's kind of my team, but there's a lot of implications going on as well there. People have Keenan Allen pegged as a much lower wide receiver this year due to quarterback play. I think he'll make up for it. I think he'll be okay. I don't think he'll quite be what he was, but we're going to have to find out and see with Tyrod Taylor at the helm. The other ones we got is Austin Eckler. High expectations for Eckler. I do not share those values. I do not think I wouldn't have drafted Austin Eckler until the third round at the highest. So I could be very well wrong. Guy's very talented. He really is. I just don't think that Tyrod Taylor has that kind of offense in him, and I don't expect him to dump off quite as much as Rivers did. So I think Eckler will take a little bit of a hit. I think you're going to see more of a Justin Jackson or is it John Kelly the other guy that's vying for the actual running back game there. I think Justin Jackson had a little bit of an injury last week too. But then you got Mike Williams, who's talking about playing. I don't think he's going to play, though. He's still listed as questionable. And then Hunter Henry's in the mix. A lot of fantasy relevant players that have big question marks because their key aspects have changed. And when you change a quarterback, that is a very big key aspect. Phil Rivers plays football a very specific way, and he uses his running backs to catch the ball. He uses them as dump-off safety valves a lot. So he's gone. Tyrod Taylor is a little bit more guy that likes to run. He'll take it in his own, take the ball and run if it's getting close, the pocket's collapsing. So we might not see the kind of dump off passes you're used to with Austin Ekeler. So that's the kind of things you want to watch for this weekend. There's a lot more, guys. First weekend of fantasy, so important. I want to make sure you guys know. Any questions at all, hit us up on the Instagram. Hit us up on Yelling from the Stands Instagram, and just comment on whatever latest post we get. We get the alerts, and we'll usually get you an answer within the hour. So we answer every question we've gotten. I have people from last year that are starting to pour in. They're saying, "Hey guys, we're back again. What do you think about this, the draft and starting?" And we love giving advice, guys. We use other people's websites. We use our own standings. We factor in a lot of factors. So, and we're going to give you more than just, this guy over this guy. Start this guy. We're going to tell you why, and we're going to give you scenarios. Like I had a question the other day. Who was it? It was Julian. They were asking Julian Edelman or Tyler Boyd, I think it was. And technically I had Tyler Boyd ranked a few positions above Edelman. But Edelman had the better play, I think it was. And I was telling him, so the way we answer our questions is, hey, if you're looking for a solid floor and you need a solid 10 to 12 points, play Tyler Boyd. But if you need, if you need to be volatile, if you need for the upside to happen because let's say you're already down, say your opponent has Sammy Watkins and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and now you're down, or you're projected to lose by 20 points, and you need something a little bit more volatile. We told him, hey, if you're in that position, play Edelman because he's got the higher upside, but he's also got the lower floor. So that's the kind of stuff we'll get into with you. We look at them one-on-one. We'll go through and a lot of times write little freaking paragraphs about what we think you should do. Just make sure if you do ask us for help, give us some good context. Tell us the scoring. Tell us if it's PPR, half-point PPR, standard. Tell us how many teams are in your league. The more information you give us, the better answer you'll get. Okay? So that starts today. We're going to put up the stuff once we put the episode up. And then we'll be waiting your questions. So hope everybody had a great time watching the first NFL game. I can't believe it's happening. We're super pumped over here. Ready to get things going. See how our fantasy teams fare this weekend. Hope you guys have a great time watching the games this weekend. Hope it goes your way. Hope we learn some good things. Stay close to that fantasy, though. It's all happening this weekend. This is the most important weekend of fantasy. It's week 1, when so much truths are learned, so much tendencies are seen. You learn more after week 1 than you do any part of the fantasy football season. There'll be more waiver wire activity happening that wins people championships this weekend than any other weekend. Promise you that. All right, guys, that's it from us here. So I'm going to wrap this baby up. Check us out on social media. Make sure you hit us up on Instagram. That's where we answer our fantasy football questions. Anything like that. Please don't message us. We've been asking. We have a lot of people that send us messages on Instagram. Just comment on our latest post. We know what it's there for. Everybody knows we does fantasy advice. And that way, if somebody else has that same question, because we're running into the point now where we're starting to answer multiple questions at the same time, over and over again, we want to be able to show them so they, maybe they want to ask a different question. But please put it in the comments. If you do send us a message, we'll ask us, hey, just post in the comments and we'll put your answer there. So hit us up on there. Any questions at all, guys? We're here to help you out. Any time of day, too. A lot of times we'll answer them real early in the morning, real late at night. So it's what we love to do. Check out our Facebook, YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe on there. Make sure you subscribe to wherever you listen to the podcast, whether it's on Spotify, Apple, Google, all that good stuff. Just subscribe. Help us out. And then kind of helps us out with the rankings in there. And the higher we go, the more listeners we get. So keep telling your friends if you've got fantasy football friends or you've got a fantasy football league. mention it in your chat. I do it all the time. I say, guys, if you guys want to find some behind the stuff on me, if you want to find out how I work, go listen to my podcast. I talk about it every week. It's going to catch up eventually and bite me in the butt, but I don't know. I love the game too much. It's too fun. So, yeah, please keep telling your friends, guys. It's been a huge, huge help in growing this podcast and taking it where we want to go. And, yeah, long live fantasy football, long live sports, and it's football season, baby. I'm going to hang this up, go have a drink, and enjoy this Friday evening. Guys, do the same. Enjoy your first weekend of fantasy football, NFL football. Have a drink, relax, take good notes, and get ready to make some major waiver wire happenings. Good luck to everybody. Signing off. This is Sean yelling from the stands. Have a great night, guys.